Hi everyone. I've got this really cool book, and it's called The Illustrated Fairy Tales, and it's the publishers, that's the people who print it, are Usborne Books. Now the authors are, there's lots of stories in here, and the authors are there's lots of different authors as well. So if you have a look, it's got a contents page because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fairy tales in here, and I know you've been writing some fairy tales, so I thought we could have a go at reading a few. So the first one says Sleeping Beauty. Right, let's go then. Sleeping Beauty. Long ago, a king and a queen lived in a magical castle where they had everything they could possibly want except a child. Year after year, the queen stitched and sewed tiny clothes, and the king spent long afternoons in his palace workshop making beautiful toys. But still, there was no baby. One day, while the queen sat knitting by the lake, a bright green frog hopped, skipped, and jumped right onto her lap.
"You shall have a baby, your majesty,"
said the frog, and with that he bowed and leaped back into the lake. True to the frog's words, the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. "Oh, let's call her Rose," the queen said happily. The king was so pleased he planned a great feast to celebrate. He asked 7 fairies to be Rose's fairy godmothers. On the night of the feast, they all flew into the castle, each clasping a glittering golden wand. Wow, what a cool sentence. Can you see here? On the night of the feast. That's a when sentence opener. They flew into the castle. Clasping means holding. And a glittering golden wand. What are the adjectives in that sentence? Fabulous. Glittering and golden to describe the wand. "Let the feast begin," announced the queen, and merry music filled the great hall. Hey guys, I've been noticing some of those past tense verbs that we've done this week. Have you spotted any? The tables were piled high with scrumptious food, and everyone ate off silver plates. Do you know what scrumptious means? Scrumptious means it was really delicious. When no one could manage another bite, the fairies gathered before the king and queen. "We have some wishes for Princess Rose," said Snowdrop, the first fairy, with a curtsy. Ah, curtsy. That's like in the olden days when ladies used to go in front of someone royal. They used to hold their dress out and then bend their legs and bow their head, and that was called a curtsy. She fluttered her fairy fingers. "Rose will be utterly beautiful." Then Honeysuckle waved her wand, guessing this is another fairy. "She'll be as clever as the king and the queen." The third fairy, Willow, floated over to the child. "She will be graceful, and she'll dance to perfection," added Bluebell. Blossom and Buttercup wished that Rose would play music like an angel and sing like a nightingale. Wow, she's going to have a lot of talents, isn't she, this one? Everyone wondered what Jasmine, the 7th and wisest fairy, would wish for. Uh-oh. What's going to happen? As Jasmine hovered, that means she's flying in the same place, over the cradle, a blast of icy air swept into the room.
"Haven't you forgotten someone?"
A chilling voice rang out. Suddenly, the mean fairy Nightshade appeared in a whirlwind of foul green smoke. Foul means disgusting.
"How dare you not invite me?"
she roared. Oh, we didn't mean to, Nightshade, the king stammered. We just forgot you.
Forgot me?
Nightshade screamed, so fiercely the flames in the fireplace went out.
Well, you won't forget this.
She flicked her cloak and marched up to the cradle.
Now, my pretty,
she purred, lifting a golden curl with a bony finger.
What shall I wish for you?
Everyone in the palace held their breath. They didn't literally hold their breath. They were just waiting to see what was going to happen. Nightshade leaned down into the cradle.
On your 6th birthday,
she snarled,
you will prick your finger on a spinning wheel and die!
No! Cried the queen, but Nightshade cackled gleefully and disappeared with a bang. I still have my wish, said Jasmine softly. I can't undo that wicked spell, but I can try to change it. You will prick your finger, little Rose, Jasmine began. But you won't die. You and everyone else in the castle will fall into a deep sleep. Only a kiss from your true love will break the spell. Burn every spinning wheel in the land at once, roared the king. Rose must never, ever see one. That night the flames from the enormous bonfire could be seen for miles. They licked the dark sky like serpents' tongues. Serpents, I've heard of that before. That's a snake. The years passed and Rose turned into a delightful girl. She danced, sang and played music as wonderfully as the fairies had wished. She was clever enough to beat the king at chess. Ha! Checkmate! She loved playing hide and seek in the castle gardens, and secretly she liked to sketch the prince of her dreams. On her 16th birthday, the king and queen gave a huge ball for Rose. She swirled and twirled in a dazzling ball gown, and every prince fell in love with her. When the feasting was nearly over, Rose pleaded for a game. Hide and seek! She shouted and dashed off into the castle. She raced up a twisting staircase that she had never seen before. Soft singing floated down the stairs. In a trance. That means she's staring and she can't stop listening to it. Rose followed the music. At the top of the stairs she discovered a heavy iron door. Inside, an old woman sat hunched over a spinning wheel.
Come and see, my pretty,
she said, beckoning Rose with a bony finger. I've got a sneaky suspicion that this isn't an old woman. I think it might be Nightshade. The thing that gave me a clue was the bony finger, because it said that about her before. Bony finger. She had a bony finger when she looked at the princess before, when she was a child.
I'm spinning, my dear,
croaked the old woman. May I see? Asked Rose, touching the silky thread.
Of course,
said the old woman, taking her hand. At once Rose snapped out of the trance.
Ow!
She cried as she pricked her finger. Rose fell to the floor. The old woman cackled and disappeared in a whirlwind of foul, disgusting, that means, green smoke. Uh-oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, I know, they're all going to fall asleep. Because that's what I said before. In the same instant, that means at the same time, everyone in the castle fell asleep. The king dozed off with a spoon in his hand. The court jester, a court jester was someone who did silly tricks in front of the king in the medieval times and did it for money to make people laugh. And the court jester froze mid-leap, so he was jumping. All the clocks stopped. The palace was silent and still, except for the rose bushes. They spread like ivy, covering everything in their path. They grew so quickly that soon the entire castle was covered in thick roots and sharp thorns. Uh-oh. What? this is not good. For 100 years the castle stayed hidden. Only the tops of the towers showed through the bushes. Princes from far and wide heard about the spell. They came in their hundreds to try and rescue the princess known as Sleeping Beauty. But the thorns cut their skin and the roots wrapped around their legs like snakes until they all gave up. Wow, those must be some freaky rose bushes. They're wrapped around their legs. I think they must have been enchanted, magical. One day a brave prince named Florian rode by. He had dreamed of Sleeping Beauty and was determined to find her. He pulled out his sword and with a flourish and began to fight his way through the spiky bushes. As Florian's sword touched a branch, each sharp thorn became a sweet-smelling rose, as if by magic. A path cleared before him. He followed its twists and turns until he reached the topmost turret where Sleeping Beauty lay. Wow, he must be the person to help everyone. Florian's heart fluttered like a bird when he saw her. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Taking her hand, he kissed her soft lips. Her eyes flickered open and Rose found herself face to face with the prince of her dreams. "You're the prince I drew," she cried. Prince Florian here to rescue you," he announced and scooped her up. As they walked through the tunnels of roses, everyone else in the castle began to wake up. The king fell into his pudding with an enormous splash, and the court jester landed with an unexpected bump. Ow! Rose and Florian entered the great hall. "My Rose!" cried the queen. "And her true love," added the king. Rose and Florian were married the next day. They lived happily ever after, and the prince always lost at chess. Wow, that was a very romantic story, wasn't it? Good old fairy tales. So tomorrow we will be reading, if we just go back and have a little look, The Emperor and the Nightingale. I've not heard of that one, and it's by Hans Christian Andersen. So that's going to be interesting. He's a very famous author of fairy tales, so that's going to be really interesting. Thank you for listening today. Bye bye.